Coming up in April is a very special event. It's called the Conference on Religious Trauma. Now, having come out of religion myself, I was never really traumatized. I was indoctrinated, but I wasn't really traumatized. But I know that there are a lot of people who have stories along this line. When I saw the speaker lineup for the Conference on Religious Trauma, I was very interested. And so talking to us here, I've got the founder of the Council on Religious Trauma, Janice Selby. Hi, Janice. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
I'm guessing that this is sort of born from a fire in your belly, right? You yourself were a victim of religious trauma?
Yes, absolutely. I was steeped in evangelicalism right from the time I was born. And then I married a pastor and became even much more fundamentalist than my own parents were. So I started wearing a head covering, homeschooled my children, really took a deep dive down that fundamentalist rabbit hole and made my world smaller and smaller.
Wait, were you Mennonite or something? I mean, head covering, what are we talking about?
Right. So I was raised really with a Pentecostal flavor. And then we moved away to a small town where my husband at the time could attend conservative Bible college. And we were surrounded by Mennonites, closed Mennonites at that time. So I started referring to myself as a Mennocostal because I adopted a lot of the Mennonite mindset, but I didn't want to give up my wonderful praise and worship that was such a part of the Pentecostal experience. So I kind of merged those two and just, as I say, made my circle smaller and smaller.
Forgive if I'm stereotyping, but when I think Mennonite, I just think Amish with light switches. I mean, am I close? What?
I would say so. We didn't have a TV, didn't listen to the radio unless, of course, it was, Focus on the Family or some such, but nothing worldly, no magazines, not even newspapers. The only reason we even found out about the 9/11 tragedy was because the clock in our bedroom was actually a clock radio. And the night before, I had accidentally switched it to radio. So we woke up to news of the towers coming down. Otherwise, I don't know how long it would have taken us to find out even that information. We were fairly isolated in a way.
Okay, well, you're sheltered, and you can share as much as or as little as you want. How were you traumatized? What specifically are we talking
about? The trauma for me had more to do with what came after I left. So religious trauma syndrome looks at kind of the traumas that are inflicted when we're in the group, losses that we have, things that we have to give up, things we miss out on, but also very much so on the other side when you leave your religious community and there are tremendous losses there and you really have to rebuild from the ground up. It's huge.
I've had conversations in the past with people who've left cults and it's like they're learning to walk for the first time. I remember speaking to one. She had spent her entire youth and early 20s in a cult. When she finally left, she was watching Seinfeld and other things just to try to learn how the culture talks and acts. And, it sounds funny whenever you talk about it like this, but it's like going to a foreign country, wasn't it?
Yeah, there are huge cultural gaps. Generally, we're quite far behind our peers in so many ways. And I'm a counselor, and a lot of my clients even have issues as far as sex goes, because the purity movement in evangelicalism was so heavy duty, and it creates a real disconnect between how you sense your body, how you feel about your body.
Well, if I can interrupt quickly, describe what you mean by purity movement, because there'll be some people who aren't really sure what you're talking about.
Yes. So purity culture, it's really the idea that you are not to have sex or be sexual at all until you are married, and that marriage is only to be between one man and one woman. And so if you happen to be gay or fall outside that very narrow parameter, you're in trouble. And even things like masturbation are forbidden. And preached against. So things that we would consider just a very normal, healthy part of our human development, getting to know our own body and what pleases us, you're not permitted to do those things and to have that exploration. And you're just promised that if you save yourself for marriage, your wedding night will be this most blessed event. Well, of course, it's you not knowing about your body and a partner who doesn't know about their body, and you're just kind of, it's not usually a really exciting, blessed, wonderful time, your wedding night, when you don't know what you're doing.
It's funny. The church is like, sex is a God-ordained, beautiful, wonderful, wonderful thing, but don't enjoy it too much. Like, don't get carnal. And the focus is most often on the female, right? Don't tempt the man. Don't be provocative. It's a shame culture targeted to women.
Absolutely. And one of our speakers at the conference is Linda K. Klein, and she wrote a very important book called Pure. And her book really looks at how women in particular have been affected by the purity movement, but a lot of men also can relate to it. So I'm glad to have Linda coming and addressing us.
I'll get to the conference here in just a second, but I just want to pick your brain since we're talking.
Okay,
let's just talk, you and me. Let's talk. Like, I know that there is a lot of sexual abuse that takes place within Amish communities that is not known outside of those microcosms. The very nature of these cults is one that they are insular, and so the things they do and how they do them quite often don't see the light of day. Is this true as well with the Mennonites?
I believe so. And actually, I would go so far as to say the Abrahamic religions, where there is such a hierarchy and everything is patriarchal and women and children are to be absolutely submissive. It's a culture that really lends itself to abuse. To the abuse particularly of women and children. And it's all the secretive shame culture and a lot of fear in there as well. So it's really a very difficult situation.
We're seeing this come to light within the Jehovah's Witnesses with all these exposés that are happening.
Yes.
Tell me about the conference itself. The focus, are you targeting attendees who have been traumatized? Are you trying to educate about what these people are going through? All the above, more, what?
Yeah, it's really, the conference is open to anyone. And we want to have a lot of therapists and student therapists, so people who are learning to become psychologists and counselors and social workers. We want them to attend as well, because they're really the next generation. And we want all therapists to become aware of religious trauma syndrome, how it affects people, how deeply and pervasive it can affect people's lives, and then also how they can work with their clients effectively. So we'll be having some workshops that are geared specifically for therapists, and then we also have workshops and presentations that are simply for interested members of the public or folks who have experienced religious trauma themselves.
So, are you tied in directly with recovering from religion? I saw the Secular Therapy Project listed on the website.
Right.
So, I mean, is that, are you an offshoot of that? Are you tied in or what?
Well, Daryl, Dr. Ray, is one of the first people that I reached out to. He's the founder of Recovering from Religion. One of the first people I reached out to asking if he would consider attending and presenting at the conference, because I'm aware that recovering from religion has a really big impact. They serve a great need, and Secular Therapy Project is an offshoot of that. So when they realized that I had no sponsorship, they graciously offered to come alongside me, and certainly they've been very helpful as far as gaining publicity goes, because Secular Therapy Project is very well respected. So that's basically how I became tied in with them, and I'm glad.
All right. So,
also, Journey Free, which is Marlene Winnell's.
Forgive me. Go ahead. Journey Free is Marlene Winnell's organization?
Yes. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Winnell. She wrote a wonderful book called Leaving the Fold. And that book has been helpful to so many tens of thousands of people through the years, really as kind of a guidebook to help you as you're walking through these different steps that you go through when you're leaving fundamentalist religion.
I'm a fan. I mean,
Yeah.
If you see her, tell her a fan says hi. In fact, I'm a fan of a great many people.
Sure will.
You've got Yasmin Mohammed, who I'm having on the broadcast in just a few weeks to talk about her new book, Unveiled. I see David Smalley. He's a buddy. I see Nathan Phelps, who's the son of the late Fred Phelps of Westboro. Talk about a guy who escaped a traumatic upbringing.
Absolutely.
Some Dave Warnock, I know, who we just had on the broadcast a few months ago, who was given
I love Dave.
a diagnosis of fatal disease, and he's decided just to live the hell out of these last years on Earth.
Yeah.
So many inspirational people. Tell me about your organization. It's called Divorcing Religion.
Right. Yes. So I developed the Divorcing Religion workshop, which is an online workshop. It's 6 weeks long. We meet every Sunday online for a couple of hours. And the modules of the workshop, they mirror the stages that a person goes through in divorce. Because I really consider losing your faith to be on par with losing your marital partner. It's that significant. And I just take participants through that journey. We really examine it. We look at the grief involved. We look at how we can utilize resources to build our new secular life. And it's just a great opportunity for people to connect with one another as we do Zoom videos, conference calls every week where we can all see each other. We're all sharing what's going on and encouraging each other.
It's interesting. I appreciate the fact that you highlight some of that, because we always talk about the liberation that comes when you walk away from superstition. My eyes were opened. I was once blind, but now I see, kind of thing. I would never go back. And these are all things that are true for the vast majority of atheists I've ever met in my life. But you're also, you've lost your community. Many of these people have lost their families. Some people have lost their jobs or livelihoods, because of the not so subtle discrimination that happens against non-believers in highly religious cultures. And then all of a sudden we're back to trauma, right? As someone who speaks or as a therapist, tell me about some of the examples of specific examples, the types of trauma that you encounter that are a reality for the non-believer and or the apostate.
Right. We look a lot at grief in the Divorcing Religion workshop because I think it can get overlooked. And as a society, we're not really comfortable talking about grief. But there are so many losses when we lose our faith, even though there is a liberation that comes with it too, but there's also confusion, fear, anxiety, and some of the grief that we feel, in particular, disenfranchised grief. These are losses that are not openly acknowledged or socially sanctioned. People tend to say, well, so what? You stopped believing in Santa Claus. Move on. But that doesn't even come close. In fact, that's quite an offensive comparison, because when your entire identity has been merged with your belief system and you no longer have that belief system, you become incredibly vulnerable.
Talking here with Janice Selby, who is the founder of the Conference on Religious Trauma, looking at more of your speakers. Janet Heimlich's going to be there. I'm a big fan.
Good.
Dr. Valerie Tirico, had her on the show on many occasions. I just love her work. I love Dr. Tirico's fairness. She's not an inflammatory person out there in the Twitterverse. She seems to constantly be this voice of temperance and reason. You mentioned Dr. Darrell Ray. We've had him on to talk about secular sexuality and all those types of things. The conference in Vancouver, April 24th to 26th. So give me the brochure real fast, because anybody who's in the area or wants to travel to the area, I would encourage them to do so. Tell me about the event itself.
Well, it's going to be hosted in the downtown Holiday Inn in beautiful downtown Vancouver. And there's a special room rate for attendees. So people can visit our website, www www.cort2020. That's CORT 2020.com. It gives information about the conference as well as how to register, booking your room, and of course, people have the opportunity to donate if they choose. I do not have a financial sponsor. At this point, I'm footing the bill entirely myself. So any donations gratefully accepted. And it's just going to be an incredible time of learning. Great for therapists and great for people who are rebuilding their own lives.
Janice, you're footing the whole bill?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want your autograph. Let me encourage it. I see a donate button on the homepage. Toss these people a donation. Look, I put on a conference. When we put on 300 Live for our 300th broadcast in Dallas, I partnered with the local Free Thought group, Fellowship of Free Thought Dallas, to do that. And I think we still didn't break even. Like, I know what's involved in getting all these speakers on a plane and their accommodations and meals and expenses, the venue, all these other things. And I feel your pain, my sister in the Lord. So even those who can't go, I would encourage you. In fact, I'm going to go make a donation myself, see if we can support this sucker.
Thank you so much.
That I think demonstrates the level of love and commitment you have for the cause. Before I let you go, I mean, let's say somebody's watching or listening and they've been beat up by religion. I mean, we hear the stories all the time. What would you say to those people? I mean, give them something that perhaps you think might help, if you would.
Yeah, I would tell that person that rock bottom is fertile ground for personal revolution. You're walking through an intense time of loss right now, but you also are on the precipice of some amazing growth and potentially a very beautiful life ahead of you. So I hope you'll reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Twitter if you like, @wise_counselor. And also I'd encourage you to read Dr. Winnell's book, Leaving the Fold. So helpful for so many.
I'll put a link to that book in the description box and, of course, a link to the conference itself, April 24th through the 26th, Vancouver. It's the Conference on Religious Trauma. Janice, it's been so good chatting with you. We'll get the word out. And we'll send as many people we can your way. And, it's an interesting angle. I've done a ton of free thought events in my 11 years as an activist. This is the first one that has focused specifically on those who have been traumatized by religion. And, in the happy, clappy world of the faith where they're like, oh, it's all about peace and love and purpose and all those types of things. And that's partially true, isn't it, right, Jan? I mean, it gives you some stuff that is positive, I suppose.
Community.
Yeah. There are a lot of religious organizations that are involved in charity and genuinely want to help other people. And we're not trying to whitewash those things. But we don't often talk, or we don't talk enough about the fact that, religion's a shame culture. It's a guilt culture. You're born broken. You're doing life wrong. We want to control you. And many people are cast off by their own families, their own parents. So it's huge, I think, that you're focusing on that angle. So thank you.
So true. And I do just want to mention as well, because we want as many people to attend as possible, your listeners will receive a discount. We will get a discount code up and running within the next 48 hours. And so your listeners, if they are able to attend, they can get $60 off their ticket. And we are offering subsidies for students because we want students to be able to attend. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about what I'm so passionate about.
Are you kidding? It's been my pleasure. I just love the idea. All right, everything's linked in the description box. Janice Selby, you are amazing. Thank you so much for your time and for your efforts and your vision on the conference. All my best, and we'll send everybody your way, okay?
Thanks so much. Take care.